take me higher than love. You're making me feel some kind of way. And now we see you take me higher than love. You're making me feel some kind of way. You take me there.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the BUSR it's summer F1 Championship. We're at round 7 at Zandvoort. Joining you today is a very unique setup. So we've obviously got Doomskull on camera, and as you can see by the camera, there's 3 of us in the same room. So joining me tonight is Josh Woolley and Aidan Larson. Good evening, gents.
Good evening.
So I don't normally do F1. We've got Josh here, who is the F1 organizer. Doom's done a bit of F1 commentary, and I believe Aidan's like myself. He's never really done.
I do a lot.
I watch it on the big screen, and that's about
a bit of commentary. Yeah, you know, like I say, I don't really do much. I like close wheel. But obviously we have, well, we're round 7, so we're towards the end of the season now. It's been quite an interesting season. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, it's been chaotic to say the least. We've had Tom Roberts kind of waltz away with any race that he's showed up to. I've had a abysmal season. Newt's won a race for the first time ever. We've had loads of podium sitters. It's been chaos, but a good week.
Absolutely. So what's your take on it so far, Doom?
I mean, yeah, loads of new pole sitters and loads of new winners, I think. I don't remember much at this point. I don't know what happened last week, so I can't comment on last week's race, but so far it has been quite entertaining to watch. And today we have a sprint race, which will double the entertainment, hopefully. We've got 12 laps in the sprint race and 36 laps in the feature race, so it's going to be 2 starts, 2 times the chaos.
Absolutely. There's something that we don't really have over on our side of the AC. On AC, we only get 1 qualifying, but 2 races, and we can confirm definitely that it's very much a chaos, especially when you get to that second race and everybody's a bit more riled up and ready to race. So, like you said, it's a double race today, sprint race, which is obviously a shorter format than the main feature race. It'll mean that the drivers get 1 chance to just have a good chance to battle each other before they go for a longer pit stop race in the second one. Are we expecting a lot of any contact today, or are we expecting quite a clean race? What would you say, being Zandvoort, quite a narrow track?
I mean, I would say that definitely expect contact. It's the BUSR after all. I don't think there's been many F1 races, if any, that haven't had any contact. So I think we should expect some. However, the lobby is looking rather small at the moment, so there might not be too much contact, especially once the field spreads out after a few laps.
Yeah, so definitely expecting, a small lobby. There should be 10 or 11 of them on the grid, unfortunately. I know of quite a few big hitters who aren't here this week, myself included. Championship leader Tom Roberts isn't here, so it's going to be an interesting race. At the front, Last Gen Newt again's not here, so it is Ben Mills versus Langman. I expect will be for pole. Ben has taken a pole position already this season. He took Silverstone pole. Langman took last week's pole in Belgium, so should be a tight battle between them two. And then further back, the usual squabble of about 7 cars altogether could go any way whatsoever.
Absolutely. Well, obviously, we're waiting for the lobby to go live. So we're just having a bit of a talk over some of the things that have happened over the season as well. It's been definitely a unique season. First season with Gridfinder and SimStaff coming back after a hiatus with ourselves. Gridfinder definitely have helped out massively. They've bumped the numbers tenfold compared to what we were seeing towards the end of last year. And again, we can't really thank them enough to everything they've done. Also supplying, hopefully, with some extra goodies and prizes for our student classes and alumni classes at the end of the seasons as well. Obviously, we're hosting everything through Gridfinder. So if you are looking to join us at any point, if you see the stream and you think, that looks like fun, I'd like to have a go, head to Gridfinder. Our BUSR page is there. Should be easy to find. They have got us on the front page. We have to thank Tom and Camille for that. And obviously, we will be racing every week. We've got AC finishing next week. We've got F1 finishing next week. I believe iRacing also next week should be finishing up for their summer calendar, but we will be doing off-season events, a lot more things planned, and, well, a lot more streams for you to do, Doom.
Yeah. But yeah, if anyone who wanted to join the community. We've got many fantastic races going on all the time. And if anyone wants to join in on the streams here as well, just head over to busr.gg/Discord and you can find out all the information here. But we are now loaded into the lobby, so how about we switch into that?
Absolutely. So it's wet. Who let it rain?
So that is interesting because, yes, there was conversations before the race of everyone trying to convince Owen, who is hosting tonight in the absence of both F1 ROs, to make it rain. I was not there to watch the lobby creation process, but I'm hoping that he did his job correctly. Apologies, Owen, if you have done your job correctly and it is just raining. But it always makes it spicy. The F1 game in the wet gets a little bit slidey. As we're watching Meet the Teacher go round to start his first outlap, it is definitely slidey out there. Shinto on the grass almost drops it on the gravel, almost drops it on the tarmac. Yeah, I think that 30-second snapshot showed exactly what we're going to be witnessing in this sprint qualifying session. Keep it on the track, do a clean lap. You're probably going to be at the front of the field because no one else is going to keep it on the track.
Absolutely. Well, we headed to the coast of the Netherlands and the rain has found this wonderful circuit right on the coast. And, well, as you can see the V-carb coming through now. That is Alpha. Alex Hughes, I believe that is. Coming through now what looks to be Sector 2. So the long left-hander now headed down towards quite a tight chicane as we jump on board. We meet the teacher to set his first lap. I believe he's now on his first flyer coming into the sharp turn 1. Banked, reprofiled, in fact, just for Formula 1 back in 2021, was it? We've got a yellow flag in the last sector as everybody slows up. Again, these corners here widened and reprofiled. This banked hairpin, such a wonderful corner, and again, steeper than it used to be, just so they could accommodate Formula 1 cars here. As we now come up towards the S's, flat out through here, an absolute commitment section, even in the wet. Down into 5th here, you can look to see 6th gear in the dry as they come up towards the now heavy braking zone here for the double right. A bit of a late apex here as you come out wide, run it wide, a bit of a twitch as he comes back into the right-handers, trying to get as much of the apex as he can, avoiding that curve because it could cause him to spin as he comes into another long left-hander now, down to 3rd gear as he starts to accelerate out, bit of a twitch on the exit. DRS zone obviously not active here as it is raining, heading into now the sharp chicane here, braking hard. It's a very, very tight chicane. You can see a lot of action here. Good moves made through there as he comes out through the exit. Now heading towards more banked corners, and of course that really now iconic banked long last right-hander, almost NASCAR-esque as you come through, complete the lap. And it looks to be a relatively clean lap so far. He comes up to the line now. It's going to be a 1:23. I don't know if that's quick, but it looks clean.
It looked clean enough. We'll see when other people cross the line. Dry times, you're looking at around 1:08, 1:07 maybe. So I'd expect the times to start dropping a little bit as the track gets rubbered in instantly.
Immediately you say that at 1:20.778. In fact, that's quite a tight time until Ben Mills jumps on and goes 4/10 quicker. But between 2nd and 3rd, you could barely put a piece of paper as Alpha slots into 4th place with 1:22.
Yeah, Ben's probably the benchmark. I'd expect him to be relatively on pole. He's the only other pole sitter this season to be racing today. Both myself and Langman not in attendance. I can't see Langman on the grid, so I'd expect Ben to be right at the front. And 1:20.3 on what looks to be quite a damp track. That's not moist. That does look wet.
Got a yellow flag. It's a Red Bull going slowly. In fact, it's a V-carb going slowly. That would have to be Alpha, wouldn't it? It's the only V-carb out there.
Yeah, it just looked like he was just letting someone through on his cool lap, so definitely not dropped it. Fairly sure he was just letting someone through.
Absolutely. Well, we can see that Geek is still on his outlap as El Cone comes through. Looks to be coming up to set his first flying lap. It looks okay. It looks like it might slot somewhere into the midfield. Comes up to the line of 1:21. That slots him into P4. So just in that cusp of the midfield there, really.
Yeah, very good laps from everyone all round. Not entirely sure why Owen down in 10th. is only just doing his outlap now. It's going to make it a little trickier. He's going to have to be really, really quick on his in lap if he wants to be able to do 2 runs, but we'll watch him as he goes through this first lap. Expecting him to be in the top 3 or 4, but he's not driven wet on this game, so it'll be interesting to see what he can do. But if we can just go on board with him and take him through a lap, then that'll be really, really good. Because we're coming up into turn 3, I think this is. Typically flat in the dry, downshift into 5th here. Through the carousel, we're expecting 3rd on the throttle really, really early as you're powering out on the battery as soon as possible. There you go, into overtake. These S's flat in the dry, flat in the wet. The right-hander here, definitely flat in the dry. Not entirely sure. Oh, just a safety brake. Hopefully towards the end of the session, we'll be seeing them flat through 6th. This corner again, flat in the dry. Downshift and a brake in the wet. Avoid both curves here. Outside will send you off into wall. Inside is actually grass because EA are amazing. Again, this left-hander, we're trying to avoid the curb because it will murder you in an instant. That looked relatively tidy. He has got a lot of battery left though for the final bits of the lap. So hopefully as we come into the chicane, we are purple through sector 2. We don't entirely know if that's the game being funny or Owen being rapid. Looks relatively clean, so I'd expect him to be right near the front, using all the battery into these final few corners as Shinto actually goes onto provisional pole with a 20.0. But final corner here for Owen, hugging the inside. Expect him to hug the inside wall, but nope, he's taking the shortest line around the outside, and it's 4th with a 120.8. Not a bad lap.
Not a bad lap. He went, well, according to the timing, he went purple, sector 2, sector 3, so it could have just been a really bad run through first few corners that has caused him to drop that time, which again, as we see, the rain does make it a massive leveler. All those drivers that are naturally quick in the dry, it does change their driving style, and they have to think very hard about where they want to place the car, especially with those curves being as wet as they are.
Especially on this game, yeah.
2/10 through the first sector. How they're 9/10 up through the second sector. It looks like they might be setting a pole lap here.
Yeah, it's been a tidy first 2 sectors from Alex. Usually been towards the front, run a little wide potentially onto that curb at the final corner, but it all depends this final straight on how much battery you've used over the lap. If you've got some left, he's flashing. That's just the rain light in this game, but that is a rapid lap.
Very well done. Yellow flag in sector 2. Clear now, but it looked to be one of the Red Bulls as Shinto comes back into the pits now. So he can get one more lap in, I believe, for the end of the session as Alpha's coming through. Ben Mills now into turn 1 as we can see the Haas of Buckets coming out of the pit lane. Up to the line, that is the Mercedes coming down to complete a lap to P4 goes Reese as then Alpha comes to the line and also improves to P6. So they are improving, so the track is evolving and getting drier, or at least quicker, as the session progresses. As Meet the Teacher now coming through, he is up on his own time as well. Currently tracking, I would say, to go 7th unless he can improve further. Coming through the final corner now in the Alpine, coming up to the line, it looks to be 8th, so lose a little bit of time at the end there as Edie comes up to the line and stays 9th.
Starts.
He was actually just starting a lap.
Was he just starting a lap? I see.
Yeah, possibly a bit early for a final run. The track does look like it's getting drier, even though it's still raining, because apparently rain doesn't work like that in the game. But I'd expect the drivers to be trying to set their laps as late as possible. So the majority of them I would have expected to come out on the pits with about 2 minutes to go. But they've come out slightly earlier. It's never bad. Always good to just get on track, be able to set your lap. Ben, again, starting his lap with 2.5 to go. If he screws this lap up, then he's got enough time to get back round and do another one, which in the rain is always handy to do. As they're all just coming onto their lap to start now. Reese just going into that first sector. Drivers seem to not be using masses of battery here. Regen is always higher in wet conditions, but you'd expect the drivers to be using all of their battery, potentially just working out where the grip is for the race. But that was very, very, very sideways from Alex coming out of that corner. But he is up still, somehow.
Just about. less than 6,000th of a second improvement as he twitches again. I believe that should be the lap over as he comes towards the final two corners now, up through the banking, heading onto the main straight now as he comes up to the line. Is it going to be an improvement? It doesn't look like it will be. If it is, it's going to be tight. I don't think it was. It was, no, barely, just under a tenth slower, but that won't be an improvement for him today. So that is all she wrote for Alex in the McLaren as Ben Mills comes to the line. 19.6 again, slower. So, was he starting a new lap? Okay. As he then comes up to obviously, so he must be abandoned his original lap. Is now going for a final push lap. Buckets to a 25, so he's closed the gap to the midfield, but still quite a way off from where he'd want to be as Reese coming to start his lap by the looks of it. And we've got a couple of yellow flags, so I believe that would be slow cars just sort of getting out of the way. Alpha comes in, so that is his lap done. That is him done for qualifying. As Geek comes through to start his flying laps, a bit of a very late start his flying lap. In fact, he goes on, I don't know how long's left in the session, because the Joyce V8 doesn't give you a timer.
Yeah, it's currently hidden by the fact that there are yellow flags. Guessing from what we had 2 minutes ago or so, I expect that the majority of the drivers will be on their final lap now. They're not going to have time to get back around to start a new lap. But importantly, Ben is 7 tenths up. So if we can cut back to Ben and watch him through these final few corners. As Aria or Shinto, 18.9, first into the 18s, Ben is looking like he could be in the 18s as well, as he crosses the line to do an 18.6.
18.6.
A second faster than his previous lap as he takes provisional pole and sets that benchmark for Alex and Elcone and Reese to all try and beat if they are on a final lap, which Reese is, but nowhere near up on his delta if he needs.
Improving. He's 5 tenths up as he comes to the line. Don't think it'll be an 18, but it might be a 19. It's a 19.2. That puts him to P3 by 0.04 of a second ahead of Alex. So Alex needs to improve here. Doesn't look like he will. He is abandoning his lap. So that is Alex set for at best P4 as Owen coming up to the line. Is he going to keep going? He is. Is it going to be any better? It is going to be an 18.8. So he just slots just in front of his teammate there into P2. So we have a couple more cars out on circuit. Looks like Elcone is improving as well. That could put him towards the second row if he can keep the lap together. And it is pole. It's pole position by the narrowest of margins, 0.08 of a second for pole position for the Alpine of Elcone over Ben Mills. Doesn't look like anybody else is on a flying lap. Shinto doesn't look like he's going to improve anywhere. He's going to pull into the pit lane, so that looks like it is all done for qualifying, unless Edie is on a lap, which I don't think he is.
No, he's not, no.
So, with that, Elcone right at the end pips the Williams of Ben Mills by 0.08 of a second.
Yeah, that was a cracking qualifying session. Elcone, new pole sitter for the sprint race, beating Ben by the narrowest of margins. We saw the times tumble throughout that session as the track seemingly got drier. Maybe it's just the drivers got more confident, but margin of 0.08 at the top and then only another 2 tenths back to Owen. Everyone were really, really pleased with that.
Absolutely. Well, so quick rundown of the grid. It is Elcone in first place with Ben Mills second, Owen and Shinto on the second row in the Red Bulls, Mercedes fifth of Reese, Alex in at P6 in the McLaren, followed by Alpha in the Racing Bull, Meet the Teacher in 8th in the other Alpine. I believe that was Edie in 9th in the Sauber, and 10th was the Haas. So 10 cars on the grid for this sprint race. Relatively spaced out at the back, but very, very tight at the front, Doom. Are we expecting quite a close race at that front pack?
Well, that's where the whole conversation about track evolution comes into play, because we know who we expect the fastest drivers to be. However, Elcone there clearly showed that our expectations were wrong. But I think the track evolution played a big role in this qualifying session. I do think it definitely got faster to drive on as the session went on, and Elcone was one of the last drivers to cross the line, so maybe the rain was easing off towards the end, and all the cars in front of them just cleared the track a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be quite a hectic start. By the looks of it, it's overcast, but I don't think it's wet. It's hard to say if it is or not, just by looking at the lobby here. But yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a hectic start.
Absolutely. We're expecting hopefully a clean start. Not lots of drives going to turn one. So fingers crossed they can stay relatively tidy through into the first few turns and obviously get through and provide us a good show. We definitely want to see that. And of course, we want everybody to get through and have a good time. Like I say, obviously, unfortunately, we are lower on numbers than we typically would be, this week seems to have been a bit of a lower turnout, but still, nonetheless, very, very talented, very, very talented, very, very skilled drivers to get through that qualifying without crashing, especially. I don't think I would have got that far without crashing.
Actually, that's very surprising. Nobody crashed that qualifying. That is a first for the BUSR, I think, when it comes to wet weather races.
Definitely in the ACC days, I don't think many of us made it without crashing out. But
I definitely haven't.
It's definitely something. No, absolutely. But obviously, we do have a couple races to look forward to tonight. We have finals for most of these series next week. We have AC going to the wonderful Donington Park. We have iRacing. I don't know where that's going. I'm sure I can find out in a moment. And F1, where are we headed to, Josh?
Next week, we are heading to Brazil.
Very nice, Interlagos. But
the season should be ending.
As we're out on the grid now, there's 5 lights. It is time to go racing as they take away from the line now. It looks like a relatively even start, except for the back, where they're 3 wide at the back. The Red Bulls are side by side to go into turn 1. It's 3 wide. Is there going to be any contact? No, it looks very tidy. Oh no, there's a little bit of contact. 4 wide now as they go. As they go through into turn 3 there. Very well done to not cause any contact there. It's 5 wide. That's Geek. That's Geek. McLaren's in the wall in a big way as well. The wing looks to have come apart from the McLaren, so I don't know what happened there. But Owen all of a sudden dropped from the podium to last.
Yeah, that was chaos, to sum it up. Ben with a brilliant start, jumped past Elcone. Shinto and Geek, teammates, close to each other, always is going to spell some sort of disaster if you're Red Bull. Slight mishap from Geek, it looked like. And then Alex lovingly decided to copy him so that he's not alone at the back. But they are going side by side now into the chicane. Alex is getting out of the way, I think, with that wing damage, as Geek is clearly faster if he does not have damage.
Looks like end plate might have come off the Red Bull as Edie up into 5th place in the Sauber, chasing down Reese in the Mercedes. Ben Mills obviously sets the fastest lap. He's the first one over the line, so it will show that he is the fastest driver out there at this moment, as everybody sort of settles into their rhythm now for this short sprint race. We've got a lot more racing to do today, but for now it looks to be Alcone chasing down Ben Mills, as that is the McLaren changing a wing now. So Alpha shouldn't be too long in the pits before he comes back out. As we come back to Alcone chasing down that Williams, sitting right on the gearbox there as he tries to look for a potential move here. It's a lot harder to overtake at narrow circuits like Zandvoort. He's got to make, as that's Shinto off in the background, giving the place away there to Reese as they come through into Sector 2 here. It's going to be a lot tighter for the drivers to make their moves back, especially if they jump off the circuit like that.
Yeah, it's been an interesting start. There's been a few incidents. One thing we will have forgotten is that if it was a wet qualifying, they might have been running wet setup, at which point they're going to be horrifically draggy down the straights in this dry session. Potentially they were running dry setups if they knew it was going to be a dry race, and that explains why they were slightly slidey, let's say, in qualifying. The other thing we have to bear in mind is that Zandvoort is notorious for the dirty air. It is really, really bad here. So once someone gets stuck behind you, it's quite easy to defend from them because they're just stuck in the corners you understeer. That might have been why Shinto went off as soon as he hit that curve. We have lovingly nicknamed it the curve of death, because if you touch it, you will end up in a wall to your left. But it is what it is. He won't be too displeased with that start. He's remained in 4th place where he started. But as you can see, Edie has hit that curve of death and has died, essentially.
Yeah, takes out a board for good measure there. as he now drops behind Alpha, so dropping a few places there. Edie just making that little mistake in touching that curb that is not a friend to anybody here, no less a Formula One car, as we are now jumping on board with Owen. He did set the fastest lap that time round, so he has got some pace in that Red Bull. He's just got to try and work his way through with only 9 laps left to go. It is Ben Mills that leads, followed by Elcone in the Alpine, Reese in the Mercedes, Shinto in the Red Bull. After a quick trip to the grass, is back out and running in 4th, with V-Carb of Alpha in 5th, Edie running in the Sauber in 6th, followed by another Alpine of Meet the Teacher in 7th, followed by Owen Geek in 8th, and the other Red Bull, Haas Buckets in 9th, and obviously Alex, who had that unfortunate incident with the wall at the start of the race in 10th, away back.
Definitely, yeah. Unfortunate that he dropped the time at the start. That's kind of race over him in such a short session.
He goes fastest.
He has gone fastest, but he needs to claw up 25 seconds to get meaningful points. He will get points as a top 10, I believe. Will get points, possibly 1 or 2. It might be top 8. I wrote the rulebook, can't remember. Probably should know the rulebook. But the important thing here is at the front. So Ben currently only 8 tenths clear of Elcone. Elcone will get the DRS. And the DRS here is really powerful. It will just drag you back. No matter if you're 6 tenths of a second slower over the lap. As soon as you get to that main straight, we will just watch that interval time drop. It started at 9 tenths, it's down to 7 tenths, it's down to 6.5 tenths already, 5 tenths, 4 tenths, 3 tenths. He could make a move if he's within, half a second of Ben.
As that, in fact, Alpha demonstrates that perfectly, going past Shinto there, and almost Edie following through as well.
Yeah, great move there from Alpha. Perfectly showcasing what I was saying in terms of the DRS being super powerful here. The other thing we have noticed is that there is a tyre compound difference. So some of our drivers have decided to run the soft tyres, namely Reese and Geek are probably the main two. I've not done any testing of the tyres at Zandvoort, but that surprises me is on this game the softs are usually horrific. That might just be me, spouting nonsense because I've not tried it. But you can expect them to be rapid for 5-6 laps and then probably fall away as it gets towards the end of the race. So you'd expect Reese, if he can hold on to DRS with Ben and Elcone, then he'll be able to go forward, probably secure that P3 because Alpha is just not going to catch up with the advantage that DRS gets. But if he drops DRS, then you could see him probably drop back towards Alpha and Shinto and Edie, who will be dragged along. And actually, so will Geek, Meet the Teacher. They're all going to go in one big train. As soon as Reese drops out of that DRS, as we have Geek going for a move, or Shinto, going for a move on Alpha as they go side by side through turn 1. A little bit of
contact under the wall. It's into the wall goes Shinto, and I believe Alpha as well. Both drivers really just getting very tight together, and unfortunately for Alpha, he comes out a lot worse than the Red Bull ahead of him, although the Red Bull does now appear to be missing a few end plates, which will mean it might be a quick trip to the garage for him to get that changed, as he is now under pressure from Quicks or Meet the Teacher, whichever you prefer, as he is absolutely defending like a lion here to try and keep behind that Alpine as he goes through towards Sector 2. Now it's going to be a tricky one, especially with that aero damage at a circuit that I believe is so heavily aero dependent. It's going to cost them a lot of time.
Yeah, it's going to be nigh on impossible to keep Meet the Teacher behind him. Now, wing damage here is terminal. There's no other way to put it. If you get wing damage, you're not going to be anywhere near the pace you should be. And he's broken, or been broken from DRS by Geek for that measure as well, so he's going to be a boat on the straight, a boat in the corners. Probably going to pit.
It's not a great move. He's going to have to keep going around. He's probably, if he wanted to go to the pits, it's not the time to do it. As Quicks decides to make sure he can't make the move to the pits as he goes down the inside. Alpha seems to have followed through as Shinto just slots in behind the V-carb there. A lot of damage on the front end of that. As the contact as Alpha into the back of Meet the Teacher there. There's more contact between the two drivers here. They're still hooking together. It's huge. And that's very silly. That was a very silly move there from Alpha as he does hook the Red Bull into the wall. It's a little bit dangerous, and I'm sure the stewards will not take a great viewing to that.
Yeah, that'll get reported for sure. The drivers like to report things. If there's a little bit of argy-bargy, which that definitely was argy-bargy. Yeah, possibly not exactly what we want to see, but they had contact a lap or so ago, so tensions were already high. And then when you go side by side on the exit of a corner up to some flat out S's, contact is almost inevitable if neither driver is willing to back down. But as we're going on to the final corners so that we can go onto the main straight again, we're probably going to have a repeat of the last 2 laps with Alpha diving down the inside more than likely, if I had to guess. Maybe he'll just make the move cleanly before.
Goes for the DRS. He's going down the inside. Here he goes. Makes the move. Whether Shinto tries to fight back, he does, but it just doesn't seem to work. That B carb, surprisingly, does not look too bad. Both end plates still visible for Alpha in that one. I mean, it's a wonderful livery, but unfortunately for Shinto, it looks like he has come off worse in both those incidents now as they come through to complete, obviously, lap 8 now, heading towards the last quarter of this race. And of course, we've got Ben Mills still in the lead, holding that nice advantage of about 0.8 of a second to his rival just behind, as they seem to be going through one of the DRS zones, as you see the gap just tumble. But Reese has dropped off massively, so it looks to be that those soft tyres are starting to work themselves away from the drivers. It means that the medium shod drivers, who, such as Alpha, Shinto, and Meet the Teacher, who all got tangled up together a couple laps ago, really need to be utilising this time now.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely hit the crossover point. You can see Reese is dropping back like crazy from Alcone and Ben at the front. As soon as you lose that DRS, you do just drop like a stone. Somehow, Geek is going to be back in the podium places if he can catch up to Reese and use that DRS after the worst start imaginable. We would say he is clawing that time back. Everyone else has sort of imploded around him, which is, as a driver, when everyone implodes around you, it's beautiful to see, and you can just carve your way through. But we'll see with 3 laps to go whether he can make that 5-second gap back up. It's going to be tricky, but he should be able to do it.
Absolutely. Well, bear in mind that 8 laps ago, we were talking about a driver who was in last and had potentially, and in fact, he still does have front wing damage, I believe, on his wagon. No, he doesn't. It looks like it's somehow still intact.
It might be invisible damage.
Might be invisible damage, absolutely. Again, another fun quirk of the EA games is that sometimes it doesn't show just how much damage is on the car until you jump on a certain camera, or just in general, as he is headed towards his lap 10 now. So only a couple more laps to go here for these drivers. Again, it seems to be that Ben Mills is in sort of a field of his own with Elko, they're just sort of checking out now from the rest of the field. There's no way the soft shod cars there in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th are going to catch. But it's a case of, can Elko take an opportunity here and take possibly his first win of the season against such a strong driver like Ben Mills?
Yeah, so Ben is fighting for the championship. Currently P3 overall, I think 3 points behind last venue and 50 points or something behind Tom. But battery management at this point in the race is key. Elcone going to be able to use such little battery because all he has to do is sit behind, use the DRS from the back of Ben, whereas Ben's going to have to use a little bit more to stay ahead of the straight. Luckily,
so far Ben has more than Elcone.
Yeah, potentially Elcone will have used a little bit to keep up, but as soon as you're on the DRS, what I'd expect him to be doing is putting it into none. If he's done loads of battery management things, he'll chuck it into none, save up until the final lap, and then going on to lap 12 is when I want to be making that move. You want to be 100% going onto the straight, and then you can dump all of your battery, get past, and then you're done pretty much if you're in the lead going into the second sector of the final lap. But you're looking like he's just about close enough if he saves a little bit of battery on this final lap to be able to make that move.
Well, somehow, even with damage, Alpha is currently now ahead of Meet the Teacher, so I don't know where he's found some pace, but he has found some pace and goes past Meet the Teacher there into P6. So sort of a good recovery drive there from Alpha. He's now going to catch the back of his teammate in AC, not here in F1 as he's driving a different livery, but they're going to catch each other here. Whether Edie does any favours to his teammate there just behind him, lets him through, we don't know, but it does seem to be that Alpha has found a turn of pace once again in that V-carb, is just slowly whistling away at Edie just ahead.
Yeah, definitely catching up. Didn't look like he had any damage, so I think he got away unscathed from the incident with Shinto. As we look on this, going on to this final lap, possibly can make a move. I wouldn't
Moves to
send it around the outside,
He's
but
going to look for the switchback. He is going to try and get underneath, and Ben just covers that inside line there. Trying to make a switchback move on Ben Mills into turn one. Not quite the move that you need to pull. Going to try again, I think, coming in towards sector 2 here. He knows that he has to make the move now if he wants that first elusive win of the season as he comes down towards the middle of sector 2 now, coming into these fast right-handers. Flat through here now, dropping the gears as they come through this double right-hand section now. It's going to have to be absolutely critical where he determines and throws the car to make this move stick if he can against what seems to be quite a good resolute defense here from Ben as he seems to pull away a little bit. The DRS again going to close this gap now as they come down towards the chicane. It's going to be very tight. Elcone throwing it in through the chicane, trying to make any gains where he can, but it looks to be so far that Ben just has the edge. Come through to the final corners now. It looks like it is going to be a blue win here for the Williams as they come up to the line. It's going to be very, very tight. The DRS is allow it to get closer. It's just over a tenth of a second between Elcone and Ben Mills there. Ben Mills just edging out and taking that victory as Reese takes a podium. Owen, a wonderful recovery drive to P4 there as Alpha comes up towards the line now. Again, another really good recovery drive. Overtakes his teammate in Edie, and to the line they come there. Meet the teacher in 7th. Just, in fact, half a tenth between Edie and Meet the Teacher there as Shinto comes to the line now. Tough race for the other Red Bull. Almost Yuki Tsunoda-esque as they come to the line there and complete to come in P8. As Alex, again, a good recovery drive, gets P9, and Buckets is somewhere out of the circuit. I believe we saw a nice little yellow flag for him going through Sector 2 now, having a nice time. Looks like a little bit of damage to the front of that Haas as he just carries his way towards the end of the lap now. It looks a little bit worse for wear.
yeah, possibly a little bit of right end plate damage by the looks of things. Not entirely sure where he picked up damage on the right-hand side of the car. Must have spun out clockwise, but not entirely sure how that's happened. But a good race, close between the top through. That's the closest winning margin we've had all season. We've only had a few races where someone hasn't won by a million miles, and those have been when Tom hasn't been here or has been crashed into on lap 1. But overall, great race. Geek will be happy with that recovery drive. He'll be disappointed that he had such a poor lap 1. But yeah, a good race for him. Good race for Alpha after that contact early with Shinto. But a good race overall. Interesting to see some of the tyres that the drivers were using that possibly I wasn't expecting. But we go again. We have full quali now. 18 minutes of chaos. Hopefully dry. And
I thought it just carried on.
No, so for F1 25, we now have another qualifying session.
Oh, are you kidding me? It's going to be so long.
So we have another qualifying session, and then after that, we then have our 50% race. So yes,
Okay,
dude,
well,
you
we're
were
gonna be
trapped
here
here
for
for another
hours.
hour, pretty much.
Also,
Well, it
we
looks
can
to
just
be
talk.
sunny for the next qualifying session. So yeah, let's head into it.
We've got longer qualifying here, a lot longer qualifying, in fact 18 minutes of it. So obviously we're not going to expect a lot of drivers to go out right away. It's going to be a case of they're probably going to sit there for a bit. That gives us a chance to talk about a bit of the other things that are going to come up, especially as we sort of look forward to the future of BUSR, future of Formula One, especially with obviously, well, F1 esports still being quite a strong event. We've got some other ideas in the pipeline, including a look at some of the future upcoming series and titles, as we do have a car out onto the circuit. In fact, it's going to be the Alpine and Meet the Teacher goes out first as he goes out for his outlap. We're going to also be looking
First
at
again.
cars in the future. Yeah, first again as he goes out, he's going to go set the benchmark time as nobody else has really blinked to his movement. In fact, there we go. The first one out is, the second one out looks to be a Red Bull. There it is. It is Shinto. So we're going to have a few cars now that come out onto the circuit to complete their installation laps. We'll talk more about those in a moment, as obviously we watch them just sort of warm their tyres up, get themselves into a good rhythm for what could be quite an interesting qualifying. Again, a lot longer than we're used to with such a smaller grid than we were expecting. Obviously, we would love to see a bigger grid, and if you do enjoy Formula One and you want to get involved, Grid Finder is the place to find all your Formula One needs. There's plenty of series and titles, groups, especially ourselves over at the BUSR, to join in and just have a bit of fun.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely a fun community. Abilities range from very, very fast. Tom Roberts, particularly PSGO-F3, quite speedy. To those not quite so fast, I won't name anyone because that is just mean, but, Last Gen U is not exactly super fast. Somehow P2 in the championship, so, little jab at him because I know he is watching. But yeah, 18 minutes for this session.
Oh, we've got a spin.
As Alex has dropped it and is now facing
The wrong way in. That's a very weird. Oh, murderer.
No, because murder corner you'd end up off to the left. So I think he has.
Just dropped it on his own.
Yeah, that puzzles me because I have no idea how he's managed to do that. 18 minutes, you probably expect them to do 3 runs because you're not going to be using the softs in the race. The drivers, I can see their chat right now. Yeah.
Oh, whatever's wrong with Alex, there seems to be a bigger issue at play because he's got grass all over his tyres, and it looks to be. I think he was trying to warm his tyres up, and I think he's dropped it twice now. So those softs are going to be about as useful as a chocolate teapot at this point, but I'm sure we'll try a lap on them nonetheless, as we are watching Meet the Teacher here coming through to set his lap, the benchmark lap for all our drivers to target. It's going to be probably around a 110, 111 as he comes up the line now. It's a 110.3. Solid lap time for our first driver across the line. We're going to see a second time, I'm sure. Very quick session here, as this is our sprint race winner here coming through first sector now. A lot faster. There's no rain to contend with this time in this qualifying session. He comes up was the fast right-hander there, in fact just a lift and then back on the overtake as he pushes through that corner, braking flat almost through there. Once he's down the gears, much further down the gears now, 4th gear through there. You see Trinto has jumped, Meet the Teacher into first place. Ben comes through sector 2 now, again running up over the curves. You can finally get onto those curves without the worry of the rain spinning you out as you go down into the chicane now a lot quicker. We can see the speeds, a lot more curb usage as he goes through chicane. Quite a tidy line through there. Looks to be purple through the middle sector, so we're going to see if that is a good enough improvement to put him onto provisional pole. After the first set of runs, he's on the battery. 10, 9, 6, 5, 3. All the battery used that, and it is provisional pole by quite a large margin there, 0.5 of a second, half a second now between P1 and P2. In fact, Alex jumped into P2 whilst we're talking about Black, as Buckets is sort of everywhere there. I think he's on the DRS a little bit earlier than he'd want to be. So he had a massive twitch, 114, so not the best lap from Buckets to begin with, but I'm sure he will improve as Alpha now comes to the line to set his first lap. It's going to be P3 with a 109.7, so not a bad time at all. In fact, El Cone then jumped straight into P2, so we're going to be resuming that battle between Ben and El Cone as they go 1-2 so far.
Yeah, everyone setting their banker laps. Very, very good lap from Ben. I'll expect pole to push a little bit into the low 8. Possibly, it depends on how much Alex and Cone, we're going to call him, can push on that time. Ben, there'll be a few more attempts in that lap, sure, I know. As Owen starts his lap with only 50% battery. Interesting choice.
Just things, I think that.
Yeah, not entirely sure why he's done that.
Accelerating on the straights, so.
Yeah, it's
I think he did have
a
close to
decision.
80.
Owen does Owen things. We don't question Owen. He just goes, and he typically goes fast. At least from what I'm seeing as he goes purple in sector 1.
This looks
So I think we
rapid
might have been
compared
judging a
to the wet.
little bit too early, as we'll see how his battery usage looks, as there's not really many heavy braking zones now. He's going to have to try and focus on getting as much regen as possible without losing time. Going through the middle sector now, looking still relatively strong as he goes on to DRS, overtaking mode. He's harvesting early, so he hasn't got enough battery to complete the lap. He knows he hasn't got enough battery. In fact, that was the last of the heavy braking zone. Pretty much flat now all the way to the end. He's going to have to be really really clever on his management mode. Comes up towards the line now. It didn't look very quick for the middle sector, but he is going to be quick. 106, 7, 8. Just not going to be on the front row, I don't think. No, second row for Owen. Slots in between Alpha in the V-Carb and Alex.
Yes, that was a good first two sectors. Purple, unfortunately, just ran out of battery going into that final sector. Had about 20%, which is about 40% lower than you'd want. You can really see the time deficit. He lost a second to Ben in that final sector, which, yeah, battery usage is key in qualifying. Ideally, you want to save as much as you can going on to the straight, because if you use 60% into turn one, then it's just 60% that you can't use around the rest of the lap. But he'll live and learn. Hopefully on this next lap, he'll save a little bit more and should be able to push up towards that top spot. As Reese is currently 9 thousandths down on his time through the first sector, lost 6.5 tenths, almost 7 tenths in that middle sector. So not the greatest of laps, probably on his way into the pits, to be honest, as he's done his first lap, and this will probably be an in-lap.
It absolutely is, as he comes into pit lane. Fortunately, in sector 2 for the McLaren might be on a build-up lap here. In fact, actually, no, he's on a cool-down lap because he's gone to P2. Whilst we've been talking, he has jumped up to P2, Elcone down into P3 by just over a tenth now, as there is another 2 tenths between him and Geek in P4, another 2 tenths back separating between the Red Bull and the V-Carb, with another almost 2.5 tenths, 2 tenths between Alpha and Shinto in the other Red Bull. Reese is very, very close. In fact, that is only 300ths of a second between the two drivers in 6th and 7th, with Edie another 2 tenths back and a 10th back to meet the teacher in 9th. He is out on his flyer, as Buckets is 4 seconds back here. I believe he will improve as time progresses.
Yeah, everyone's set at their banker lap. Huge lock-up for Alex into turn 1. That is just lap done instantly. He'll have lost half a second. Another lock-up into the carousel. That one's okay. You do always lock the fronts into there. The F1 games likes to make any sort of minor lock-up look like you've just blown a tyre. He is only 300ths down, 300ths down on his time, which suggests that there is a lot more time in that first sector if he does turn 1 right. Again, locking the fronts. And again, a snap on the rear. It's not been a tidy lap. The F1 game sometimes does reward you for not driving super tidily. I'd expect this to not be super rapid yet. Only matching his PB so far. There is a lot more time in this lap. If he just plays around with the brake bars a little bit, looked like he needed to push it a little bit more rearward and then a little bit more sensitive on the throttle, but I'm not out there. I can't judge him too much as he is coming into the pits to put on a new set of tyres, probably to wait 7 minutes and then come out for his final attempt.
Absolutely, Owen is out on his second flying run, so hopefully he has learned and listened, and is going to take some battery here to the start line, rather than hoping that he can get enough regen through the lap. Comes now towards the second detection point. Obviously, no detection needed here. It is qualifying, so you get the DRS gifted to you automatically up to the line now. Starts the lap. DRS open, flying through the final corner now, headed down towards turn 1. Hopefully he is not on the regen too early, and slams the brakes there, nice and tidily into turn 1.
Yeah, that looked like a much tighter turn 1. Again, looked fairly flat through turns 3, through the carousel, very neat and tidy. Got a good exit, should be on the battery really early on here. We'll see what his delta time is through sector 1. We'd expect it to be down a little bit because he's using less battery. It's actually up, which suggests either he's just found magical time or has used even more batteries through sector 1. Avoids the curve of death on the outside there, hooks it in nicely. A little bit of a twitch on the rear, but again, it looks clean and tidy. He's hit that apex nice and late. Again, a good exit onto the straight using battery. There's no flashing light. He's a 10th up. But it all depends on how much battery he's saved for the final sector as to whether he can challenge Ben at the front.
It looks to be good so far as he comes up towards the final corner now. DRS open. If we don't see any flashing lights, it means, oh no, I do see a flashing light. I think he's run out of battery again. Comes to the line. He did improve, but not enough to go into the front row. Still another half a tenth between him and Alex on that front row.
Yeah, that was a much better lap from Owen. Saved a little bit of battery because he gained 2 tenths. In the final corners, where there's not really much time to gain, it's all about how much battery you have for going down the straight. Hopefully, he can sort that out. Final few laps, as we've got 6 minutes to go. Ben going on his second lap. He's going to do this one and then one more with about 2 minutes to go. Adam, if you want to take us through the lap of Zandvoort.
Absolutely. So hard braking into turn 1 here, down to third gear as he comes through the gears, now up flat. Coming into this next turn 3, braking hard into third gear again through this tight hairpin and back out early on the power as he goes over the curbs, heading into the tight S's section here again, using as much battery as he dares, braking a little bit, maybe a lift through here, through in almost a flat nature, braking again down into 6th gear, powering out, braking hard into the second right-hander, coming wide, again, getting cars wide as you can through here, down left, 4th gear, powering out over the curb, using as much of the curb as come into the first DRS zone of the lap, headed all the way down to the chicane, very, very tight, very twisty, as you come up to the final 2 corners now, detection point just past there, as he goes purple in the middle sector to the first right-hander here, for his second right-hander, DRS open, brave, using all the battery he can now, down to 10%, almost running out of battery as he comes to the line. It is faster. He has gone faster, not by a lot, but by enough that will put the gauntlet down to the other drivers. 4/10 second now to separate first and second. As we jump to Buckets now, he is on his second flyer. We are going to see the split as he comes up to now to the second detection point. Is slower, so I think he's had a few mistakes here through his lap as we come into the end of the lap here now. Again, coming up to the right-handers flat for the most part through here. He needs to be brave as he can. DRS open is a massive twitch as comes through there as he's lost it. He's in the wall, and there's the crash that we were expecting. Wing on, pass into the pits, and it will be a dust off and go again situation for Buckets.
Yeah, really unfortunate situation there. Not entirely sure why he lost it. Should be okay usually.
It looks like Buckets is playing on a controller, so just not feeling the car at all doesn't help.
Yeah, possibly. Usually that corner is flat though, so I'm not entirely sure why the rear end stepped out like that. He might be running a setup that's particularly low wing. But yeah, an odd one, but enough time for him to go into the pits, take the 20-second penalty or whatever it gives you whilst you're in the pit lane, as it's changing the front wing in quote marks. But yeah, Ben Mills, clearly happy with his lap, has retired from the session. He thinks he can go no faster in the session, so has left it down to the others. As I'm now being laughed at for stealing Adam's chair, so I will get out of the way so Adam can come back. But yeah, it's been a clean lap from Alex so far through the first sector and a half. He's avoided all of the murderous spots. It's not looking like he's stepped out the rear quite as much, locked the tyres quite as much. So it'll be interesting to see what his delta time is as he comes through the second sector split.
Absolutely, as we are seeing a purple time, so he is improving. Is it going to be enough to jump onto pole, or at least catch Ben Mills as they come up to the final 2 corners now? There's not a lot of time to gain here. Really, if you can stay committed, you will keep your time. But as long as he doesn't make any mistakes now, coming to the line, is it going to be an improvement? It's going to be an improvement. In fact, it's only just within the 10th of a second. In fact, just over, the 10th of a second between Ben and Alex now. So Alex may go again if he can. If there's enough life left in the tyres and get the battery recharged. He may go again on this set of tyres, try and find that missing 10th now, as everybody seems to be sort of late to react. It looks like Owen hasn't come out of the pits yet. In fact, there you go, he's moving now from the pit lane, so everybody out in that outlaps now. Last chance for them to improve, as we see the Mercedes obviously on a recharge lap now. Again, that looks to me like McLaren is also going to try again as Shinto comes to start his flying lap.
Yeah, a very odd one for Geek to be out the pits that late. He's going to be really pushing it to the line. Possibly not the most optimal of outlaps. Again, with Alex, he's going to be tight getting to the line. The tyres are probably going to be dead by the time he gets there. So I wouldn't expect him to be on pace with what he did previously on the brand new softs. But we'll see. As Shinto is a 10th up going through this first sector, it looked clean and tidy. It looked like he took that corner flat again through that right hander was flat, avoids the curve of death, swings it in nice and early across that curb, which is a little bit grassy, but it's okay in the dry. Avoids the curb on the inside, which will just murder you instantly. DRS open nice and quickly. Gets a little bit of a slipstream off his teammate. A little bit of team play there from Geek. 2 tenths up going through the second sector. Looking like he could possibly pip Alpha to P5 right now. Sneak into the mid 109s. Will be a little bit disappointed potentially with the gap to the top 4, but you never know. He might have just saved a whole bunch of battery and we'll find the time. There we go, a 109.6. Within a second of pole, he's going to be happy with that.
Absolutely. It looks to be a lot closer in that midfield now. In fact, as Alpha joins them in the 109s, in fact, we are 109s now from 3rd to 7th there. In fact, Reese only just outside the 109s, as I'm sure he will improve. Buckets has no improvement there. That looks like it will be the end of his qualifying for Haas as Alpha comes to the line. Are we seeing an improvement? We will. But he jumps to the second row of the grid and just pips Owen by 0.01 of a second. 0.001 of a second. As we see Reese also improve into the 109s now. So we have a lot of drivers all within 4 tenths of each other right now. It's going to be a very tight race if this qualifying session is anything to go by, as Alex is not going to complete that lap. Edie coming to the line now. Is it going to be an improvement? It looks like it might be. Is he going to join the 109 club? He is going to join the 109 club just. So we have everybody pretty much within a second from 2nd to 9th. As he goes to the line, improves. In fact, he jumps his rival there in the V-carb by exactly a 10th of a second.
Yeah, everyone came together for their final laps. The majority of the top 10 to all be within a second of Ben. Most of them are going to be happy. Ben will have that psychological advantage that he retired from the session, only did 2 runs, went, no, I've done enough, I'm quick enough, come and beat me. And no one could match that challenge. So he's going to be confident going into this race that he can just drive off if needed.
Absolutely. Of course, we have a pit stop in this race. It's going to be a case of managing those tyres and managing the expectation of the cars behind, because, of course, as the leader, you've got to sort of maintain that pace. If somebody else goes in front of you and tries to jump away, you've got to then decide whether you risk your tyres or you hold off and try and sort of manage your pace. Again, it's a very different style and different class to anything I'm used to. Of course, I'm MX-5s and sports cars by profession, but of course, Formula One is very, very different to everything I'm used to.
Yeah, typically we'd expect to see the mediums and hards used. I doubt the softs will make an appearance. Who knows? Me, the teacher, does like to use ChatGPT to work out his strategy. Told him to do a soft medium 1-stop in Canada, which is laughable because it just doesn't work. So you never know. He might end up starting the race on the soft if ChatGPT tells him to do a 17-stop, like stop every other lap and change the tyres. Who knows what it's going to tell him to do? He might just try and not stop at all. The wonders of AI, but it should be a close race at the front. I'd expect Ben to start on the hards and then swap to the mediums about halfway through the race. I don't know how many laps it is. Probably about 26, if I had to guess. But Doomskull, you might know.
Sorry, I wasn't listening because I have something interesting to say. It's raining.
Right. It's raining.
Oh, no, it's raining.
No.
Oh, no.
So that is.
Oh dear, wow. So everything we just said about strategy, take it into this nice pile of paper, scrunch it up and throw it in the bin because we've just absolutely changed the script here. Typical BUSR. We're going to flip the script. It's raining. We don't know what they're going to be on. Maybe they will be on the mythical blue tire that doesn't exist in the real world, clearly. But we'll wait and see as, well, we're waiting for a screen to see just how wet it is out on circuit. But I imagine it's going to be a
how about
interesting
we hear
event.
from our sponsors over at Grid Finder?
Absolutely. Let's cut to the sponsor. So welcome back to the BUSR. Quick ad break there for Grid Finder even, sorry, not Sim Staff. It's been a long day. We've spent the day at Alton Park in the sun. Unfortunately, Zandvoort hasn't got the message and it started to rain. So as we wait for the drivers to grid up and get their, well, quite frankly, interesting race underway, this could be one of the BUSR iconic moments of the season, maybe of the year. And, well, Zandvoort, wet weather, what could go wrong?
Everything. Literally anything
I don't know what you're
could go
talking
wrong.
about. Everything's great.
And we've got 5 lights already. In fact, we're going now as they pull away from the grid. Looks like a slow start from the Haas at the back. Everybody else seems to get away quite well. Doesn't look massively wet, so it looks like it may switch into dries as we go forward. But for now, everybody seems to be civilized. We don't know how everybody's going to react. I'm sure if they're on dry setups, this is going to be a right nightmare for those drivers as they come through the hairpin for the first time. It seems to be civilized discussion. There's a little bit of contact for Shinto. He loses the rear end but holds it as he looks around the outside of the Alpine. It's going to be a brave move if he can make that. No, it's not going to stick as he then slots him back behind as Edie is looking at Reese here and makes the move on Reese quite quickly, in fact, as also Quicks looks down the inside as well. He's going to make the move, sticks a Reese, who qualified really well, already dropping to the back of that strong midfield pack.
Yeah, unfortunate start for him. Quicks drifting it round the corners because apparently that's the quickest way to drive in the wet on this game. Kick out the rear, slide, and then hope that you don't counter steer into a wall at 150 miles an hour.
Game for me to try? Is that what I hear?
Yeah, basically. This is EA WRC 25. You slide the corners and then hope that it doesn't pitch you right into a wall. But a clean start from the front of the field. Somehow Ben and Alex have gapped Geek already. He's lost the DRS second, even though it is raining and there is no DRS. That number might become important later in the race if it does go dry. But even in the wet, the slipstream is somewhat powerful.
He's going to try and hang it around the outside. It looks like it could be a good move if he can keep it there. As he just loses the rear end, he's going to stay alongside. In fact, there's still alongside. They've been side by side now for the entirety of Sector 1 there, as there's some sort of damage, some invisible damage there, carrying to the front of the Red Bull, as that is Elcone still all over the back of Alpha. Alpha doing a really good job there of defending, making it as hard as possible for the Alpines to go by. As the Red Bull now looks down the inside, he's going to lose the rear end a little bit, but recovers well, and that's going to drop him back behind Elcone in that lovely, wonderful blue and pink of the Alpine. They're coming out down towards the chicane for the second time. It's going to be an inter-race according to the game, so it looks like we are going to only see the green sidewall, so not really much strategy at play there.
Yeah,
Even the game knows
definitely going to be
useless.
Yes, the wet tyres are completely useless in this game, even if it is full wet weather. Within 3 or 4 laps, it's going to dry enough that the Inters are the tyres to be on. Strangely enough, that bit of damage that we saw flicking up wasn't actually any damage. It was the bottom of Shinto's car hitting a curb and therefore the game deciding that it detonated. Didn't happen on his screen. It's just a broadcast thing that we see. So anytime it looks like there's some damage flicking up, that is just the game going, aha, yes, a bomb has gone off under the car, because clearly that is how an F1 car works. But they're all much more civilized this time. No argy-bargy so far.
As yet.
Again, it is Shinto and Alpha next to each other. Potentially they're going to go again with what they did last race and give us some entertainment. But we're gonna hope not, because we want all 10 cars to finish the race with their pieces.
Absolutely, we don't really want to see anybody getting into an unfortunate situation where they are going to end up, well, without a wing, without a tyre. We of course don't want to see any retirement, but it's a wet weather race. You don't know what to expect until we get to lap 35, at which point hopefully everything's sort of written in stone. But again, we've seen multiple races in the BUSR where nothing is over.
Yeah, definitely. BUSR races, you can never really count anyone out until everyone's crossed the line. There's been a lot of last to firsts this season. There's been a lot of sudden detonations, usually by me. As soon as something happens, whether it starts raining or goes dry, I usually spin. But it's been a good season.
There's contact there between Shinto and Alpha, so they have not. They've decided that despite the sprint race shenanigans, they're going to continue to battle each other quite hard. In fact, that looks to me like Alpha's dropped a couple places from Elcone and Shinto now. If that was a mistake, I don't think we quite saw it on camera, but if we did, I apologise, as he now drops to 6th place. Edie just behind in the Sauber. Again, we're going to see a lot of changing of hands again. The great thing about wet weather, it's an equaliser. All of a sudden, all those drivers that are very, very quick in the dry would struggle, especially with the fact that they are probably on a dry setup still with some wet tyres on.
Yeah, so if they saw that it was raining, so the F1 game does tell you what the race potentially is going to be like. We're going to hope that it told them it was going to be dry, because that makes it extra fun for us. They'd have all put on dry setups. If it had told them it was raining, then they're going to be on wet setups. We'll make it a little bit easier. But strangely enough, on the F1 25 game, usually if it's wet, you just take the wings off, because apparently that works. Don't ask me, didn't program it. EA Cody's funny things. But yeah, it's been a moderately clean start. Of course, Shinto and Alpha, as soon as we mention anything about them, decided to ignore all advice we gave them and touch each other. Shinto has got damage, I think, which is why he is in the pits. Not entirely sure. It's very, very early. He's actually retired from the session in the pit lane. So clearly decided that the damage he had wasn't worth continuing. So that is an unfortunate retirement for him. The game should deal with that and hopefully not put him out on turn 1. It might do, but everyone else is already passed, so we can ignore that. Unfortunate for Shinto, but...
Is that a disconnect?
No, so he's retired from the session in pit lane. So that is intentional. He's had enough.
He's
actually typing in the driver's chat right now, so that'll be interesting to read.
Game is interesting. Is it actually going to retire?
Yeah, there you go. He's going to be parked off into turn 3.
Okay, just deletes it. There's no safety car. Good.
And then disappears.
Yes.
So that is going to be an interesting comment, I'm sure. I don't know what happened there, but whatever happened was not one of those moments you want to be repeating, I'm certain, as we see Reese now chasing down Edie. It's looking relatively well spaced. And we go to Ben Mills. In fact, Ben Mills is now on a purple time. He is still spacing himself out from Alex. So there's another 0.8 per second. In fact, the same gap we had in the last race, as Geek is the only difference between the original podium as Elcone. But no, Reese even was on the original podium, wasn't he? So we have a couple of cars between Reese and the podium again. But we can see Edie trying to overtake that Mercedes there. The Sauber looking relatively strong in the wet weather, especially against that Mercedes. We aren't sure whether there's a setup situation going on or not, but we can say for certain that we have had our first retirement in Shinto, which is a shame, as we go on to lap 6 of 36.
Yeah, unfortunate for him to retire. Hopefully all is okay. But yeah.
It looks like it's stopped raining.
It has.
It might be time for some mediums soon.
So one key thing that the drivers will have, we won't be able to hear it, unfortunately, is that their race engineer, at some point in the next couple of laps, it looks like it's getting dry, will tell them it's probably time for dry tyres. Usually when he says that, you completely ignore it, and you wait until it says that DRS is enabled. Once you have both DRS enabled and Mark, your race engineer, as he's called in-game, named after Mark Elvis Priestley, who used to be a McLaren F1 engineer, that's then the time to box. So we're waiting for when it says DRS enabled to pop up at the top of the screen. That's when we'll know that drivers will know absolutely that it's ready. Me, the teacher, using the power of AI, has decided that now is the time to box. Very, very bold.
Is that slicks? That is slicks.
That is slicks. That's possibly...
That's soft.
No, medium. That's medium.
I was worried then. I thought I'd seen a red sidewall.
No, medium.
This is going to be...
Almost drops it immediately as soon as he turns off the pit limiter. I think this is possibly a lap or two too early.
We're going to find out very soon as he comes through.
Well, judging by how much they struggled to get out of the pit, they crossed the exit line too soon. So
A little bit twitchy.
massive,
So the exit
massive
line-
understeer.
The exit line they do intentionally. That's just, we let them cut across the line because the game will give you a warning if you do it once. If you do it twice, you get a 5-second penalty. But we allow them to do it once because as long as they're not crashing into someone, it doesn't really affect it too much. It looks, it looks
still a bit
greasy.
too
It
wet.
looks really
It's
greasy out
still
there.
a bit too wet for those medium tyres. As he switches again, it's going all sorts of directions, not in the way that he wants it to go. So it comes through the corner now, just nice and cautious. Coming towards the chicane, this is going to be very much a telltale sign as to whether the track is ready. In fact, somebody else on the hards,
Tyres.
the other Alpine in on the hards, El Cone going for a very brave strategy and going on a hard tyre.
I think hards are the way
that'll
to
be a
go
one-stop.
here. You can go to the end of the race on these now, I think.
So you can. It's going to be a real struggle. The F1 tyre model is quite abrasive on its tyres. We are going to be driving slightly slower because it is still damp. But clearly Alpine have a master strategy because both of them have boxed for mediums way earlier than everyone else. Quicks has actually lost time to Edie in front, so I think it is still a little bit too early. The F1 game is a little bit funny at times where it can be in this sort of greasy state for 10 laps even. Even if it's going from dry to wet, it can be torrentially raining on screen, still a dry track, which is always odd. But importantly, out front, Ben has dropped Alex. He's broken that DRS. I say DRS, but when it comes in,
Ben's
it'll
in.
be DRS.
Everybody's in, so it looks like we're going to have our swaps now. Whether everybody's followed in from the
You
Alpine
reckon the
master
Alpine
plan.
drivers were just saying in chat, yeah, it's great, you can go on the slicks now, hoping that someone in front crashes and they can inherit the
Hard
position.
tyres, so it looks like it's going to be a battle to the end. In fact, Owen stays out an extra lap. Reese stays out an extra lap. We don't see Alpha and Edie are in the pits as well. Did somebody just drop that on pit exit? Was that the McLaren?
Potentially, it might have been. It might have just been the game releasing them.
It might
in
have
a
been the
funny
Twitch
way.
on the McLaren, but yeah, it almost looked like the McLaren had dropped then. As we see the Sauber coming out on also hard tyres, so it looks to be that only Quicks has gone out on the medium tyres.
This still feels early. Like Quicks hasn't set a fastest lap. I still think it's a lap early, maybe two. There's not been DRS enabled just yet, but the drivers are out on track. They're going to feel the limit of the grip. They clearly feel that being on the dry tyres is quicker, except for Geek and Reese, who think that they need to stick out. Maybe they're watching the stream and listening to my, tyre talk. But it'll be interesting to see. I don't think the hard runners will go to the end. 30 laps on a set of hards at Zandvoort is extreme. I expect they'll probably do 18 laps on them, probably go to lap 25, 26, and then box for mediums and go to the end. They might prove me wrong. Owen's
Owen
saying the
goes
fastest lap on the
purple
inters.
On the inters, so it's clearly not quite at the top. There we go.
The DRS has now enabled. So I would
Owen
say
will go
this
in
lap.
this time.
Yeah, this lap is when you want to.
Oh
Reese.
no, Reese. Oh, it goes from bad to worse for the guy in P2 as he jumps in onto the hard tyre. It's going to be a 10-second penalty. But there you go. El Cone is now setting faster laps, so it is time to jump off those lovely treaded semi-slick tyres of the intermediate and onto a nice set of hard tyres.
One other thing they could do, so for Geek particularly, because he ran soft in the sprint race, he has 2 sets of medium. So he could, if he guarantees himself to do a 1-stop,
Double stop medium.
he could go medium, which will be quicker in the long run over the 2 stints, just because the mediums are nicer. He's a little bit bold. He'll have to do, 13 laps on each? Easily doable, but he is guaranteeing himself to a 2-stop. I expect the rest of the drivers will still need to stop again from here, but I'm not entirely sure of the degradation because I haven't done any laps. If it's low enough, I should be able to find out if you give me 2 seconds. I expect, though, it will be too high that they will need to box again.
Well, we are seeing the Alpine set fastest sector in the middle sector. So Owen does come into the pits. He's gone for the hard tyre as well. We'll see if that was the great call. I mean, he did do very good lap time coming into the pit lane. In fact, he comes through Ben. Here comes through Alex. We're going to see Elcone potentially take another position as well. We don't quite know. No, nowhere near, unfortunately, for Elcone. Just outside of that pocket of slipstream or DRS you'd want. It's sort of spaced out here, so we only have Reese within the DRS of Alpha, but beyond that, they've spaced themselves out.
Yeah, there has been some spacing out, potentially a little bit early on the tyre changes. Just lost Elcone a little bit of time. Looking at the deg from my master sources, looking like you can do about 25 laps maximum on the hards, so Owen potentially can go to the end. Reese, maybe. The others, you're going to be really, really pushing it. It depends on what the grip level is like at the moment. If it's really, really cold and really, really slow, then you're going to be slower, you're going to have lower deg. So potentially they can go to the end. Potentially it's going to run out with about 5-6 to go, at which point you're probably boxing for some mediums and then pushing like crazy to the end. But as Ben sets the fastest lap, he is just 3 seconds out in front, just cruising at this point. He's broken DRS. He has nothing to worry about. Just drive off into the sunset and claim the win.
Exactly. Well, you've still got to get to that finish line to claim the prize. It's not as simple as people may think it is, as we see Reese, obviously a good example of anything can and will go wrong if you just let it. So we see Reese now trying to chase down Alpha, but he does appear to have just lost that DRS. But Elcone is going rapidly. He's already caught Geek and is back within a slipstream distance. So we could see a potential fight or the last step of the podium between the two drivers. Obviously, sort of equal cars, I believe, for this championship, which makes it a little bit more fair for the drivers. We aren't seeing the McLaren shoot off into the distance and the Williams down with the Haas at the back end of this field, which is a quite nice change to see. But we do have Elcone absolutely closing on Geek now. So Geek, not sure what's going on with his pace, whether he is deliberately trying to sort of save tyres, manage the tyres to the end, try that 1-stop. But Ben has no hesitation, and neither does Al in P2, P4 as well, also going purple. So Geek, the only one of the top 4 not to improve or improve noticeably on that lap, as Elcone takes the fastest lap there on lap 13 on a set of hard tyres. It is going to be very tight now. Geek is going to have to defend for his life.
Yeah, dependent on setup, obviously. Potentially, Geek was running a higher wing setup, expecting the rain to last longer. Because it is approximate, and the F1 game is never actually that good at telling you when the rain is going to come. You might have thought that it was going to rain until lap 30, at which point you go on a full wet setup, and you'd be rapid in the wet, and as soon as it starts to dry up, you're going, oh great, I'm screwed. Whereas Elcone might have gambled and gone for a completely dry setup, hoping it to dry out on lap 4, at which point he's as happy as can be right now in the dry conditions. But he's sort of, as expected, he caught up to Geek and then just kind of plateaued a little bit as he's caught the dirty air. One unfortunate bit of this game is that it is very, very hard to overtake people if you're not significantly faster because of that dirty air. As Ben sets the fastest lap, unsurprisingly, they are just going to get quicker and quicker as the track dries out. I'd expect them to drop into probably the 12s or 13s come the end of the race if they do change tyres onto mediums. possibly a 13 in the next couple of laps as the track goes fully dry. But drivers will just be slowly warming up their tyres, not punishing them too much in the early phases where you can kill your tyres in 2 corners if you overheat them.
Absolutely, as we see Alpha now being challenged for his 5th place by Reese. Obviously, they'll be aware of the 10-second penalty, so it won't make a massive difference. But yellow flag in Sector 2, I'm not sure what that was for, but it looked to be potentially the Haas getting lapped, in fact, as we are following this battle still between Alpha in the V-Carb and the Mercedes of Reese, trying his best to make a way past that very, frankly, large rear end now of the V-Carb. DRS open, just no pace from that Mercedes at the moment, as we see another purple lap for Ben.
Yeah, Ben is just cruising at this point. Although Geek has found some pace, he's warmed those tyres up now, starting to pull away a little bit from Alpha behind in terms of him and Alcone, kind of stabilised time loss to Alcone behind. And they are slowly catching back up to Alex, slowly bringing themselves back into contention. We might see the top 4 form a group again at some point before the end of the race, depending on how much each of them are going to push, how much battery each of them are going to use on a particular lap. If you are Ben, you do not want that train forming, because otherwise you are just screwed. If you can keep them all out of DRS, then they're not overtaking you. They're not going to be able to recharge the battery. You can just chill.
Absolutely. We can see the gap between P2 and P3 is slowly coming down now as we approach the halfway distance of this race. It is still Ben Mills, the comfortable lead there with Alex P2 in the McLaren, P3 followed in with Geek in the Red Bull, P4 Elcone with the Alpine, and 5th and 6th, the battle between Alpha in the V-Carb and the Mercedes of Reese, as we also see Ben go even faster again in 13.7s now. Edie in P8 with Meet the Teacher and the other Alpine in Edie in P7 with the Alpine P8 of Meet the Teacher, with Buckets in 9th, and our only retirement so far of the session, Shinto in the other Red Bull in P10. Unfortunate for him, as we jump back on board with the battle. That's contact between the Mercedes and the V-Carb. Alpha looked to have lost the rear end a little bit there. Massive twitch as they come out towards turn 3 now, heading into the hairpin of turn 4. Don't know what happened there, but it looked like a lot of contact between the 2 drivers. No damage as far as I can see on the Mercedes. I'm not sure if it's the same for the V-Carb. In fact, the V-Carb does look alright, so it might be okay for them on this occasion, but it looked like a huge bit of contact there on the straight.
Yeah, they all look like they came through that unscathed. The F1 damage model was a little bit funky, that because of the settings we're running, we're on standard damage. The only bits of damage you can get is front and rear wing, and punctures, of course. But as long as you're not kind of spear hooking each other in a sense, then you're okay. You shouldn't be picking up damage, particularly as that Bucket's just getting out of the way for these 2. Nice and sensible, just minding out of the way of the traffic completely. As Ben did set the fastest lap and has dropped Alex by about a second on that previous lap. Good move from his perspective. As Reese, 12.6, unsurprising really that times have dropped that low. We are on a fully dry track, I would imagine, at this point, with the times where they are. But yeah, it's whether Reese can drag himself far enough up the road that 10-second penalty would be negated. Currently, it would put him back in P7, which is a little bit of a shame from where his pace has been. He's been much closer to the front of the field. As Geek actually is now almost in the DRS range of Alex.
Possibly. You can see Alex as Alex then locks up immediately as we jump to Geek here. 1.1 seconds, so not quite this lap, but maybe on that next lap we're going to see the battle begin between P2 and P3.
Yeah, definitely closing in. This is where the strategy and your battery management comes into play. Can you be the one to save a little bit more battery? Can you be clever with where you use it so that you actually save a whole bunch of battery through the start of the lap? Because you don't actually need it through any of that point. You put it in none whenever you're braking, and then just use it all down the straight. Just try and get as close as you can to the car in front. as soon as you have that DRS, you can just turn it off and recharge it like crazy and just sit and just get closer and closer and closer to the back of them until you have 100% and you're 4/10 back going into the final corner. But we'll see how they do it. It's definitely a jump from what we used to run last season when we ran 23 and you just had a finite amount of battery that you could use over the entire race. But we'll see how Owen can manage it. He has taken time out of Alex through the first two
So
sectors.
considerable time, but he has DRS now. So all of a sudden, Owen, who was just sort of sat in P3 and comfortable in P3, is now chasing down the potential second place, that silver position for Owen, as there's another yellow flag. Goes quickly green again, so probably just a small off track there for the driver in question. As we see Owen now right on the back of the McLaren, he's going to be looking to make that move. DRS towing him along down the straight now, or just over half a second now between the McLaren and the Red Bull as they come up towards the hairpin of turn 4. Again, Owen doing his best to really just reel in that McLaren. He's done a really good job over the course of this stint to close that gap and try his absolute hardest to take away that second place, and maybe, just maybe, he could start to close the gap on the leader.
Yeah, he's sort of matching Ben at the moment. Alex is. His gap to Ben is growing, but he's dropping back into the clutches of Geek. That yellow flag briefly was just Alpha, I think making a hash of it, a cover of death. So he is now behind Edie. A little bit of a breather for Reese, as we've had another spin. That looks like the Alpine.
That looks like an
Meet the
Alpine.
teacher at the carousel. Probably dropped it through the fast right-hander if you touch that curb. It gets a little bit unstable. Very easy to lose the rear there. But Owen, possibly in the DRS? No, not in the DRS this lap. Needs to use a little bit more battery going into that detection point, which is that green circle on the map just after the chicane and then the double left-hander.
Alex responds there with his fastest lap of the session. In fact, the fastest lap of the race now. So Alex all of a sudden going from the hunted to trying to be the hunter and close that gap between him and Ben, and also drop that very angry and very charging Bull just behind him. As we can see that the gap's sort of sitting around a second now. It's leveled off. Owen done a really good job there to close the gap, but just can't seem to make the move.
Yeah, the dirty air here is terrible. You'll see it particularly through the faster corners as you just get all that understeer on the front wing. He is very, very close here though this lap. You want to use a little bit of battery on exit just so you get the good run. DRS down the straight, turn your battery into none as soon as you open DRS pretty much, and just follow Alex through here. Don't use too much battery. He's got detection, he's got DRS, he went through that white line way, way, way under a second. It should be burning all the way along the straight with DRS. This should be an easy move.
There we go. In fact, there you go. The DRS is over. In fact, that's a very easy move in before we get to the line. Slingshots around the McLaren, and all of a sudden, off he goes. Hopefully into the distance for Owen, he'll hope. As in fact, there's a slow Alpine on the exit. He's now going to have to manage traffic as well, although that should give him DRS to try and sort of fixate and cement his move against that McLaren. He's going to hope that Quicks can keep the pace. In fact, no, Quicks is going to let him through. So now he's got to do the job that his compatriot there behind him, Alex, was doing, and it's his turn to try and defend.
Yeah, instantly. Oh, as Alex gets a 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Zandvoort is a tricky pit lane entry. Very early to box. I'm going to assume. Oh, it's a front wing change. So he's clearly come a cropper somewhere. Needs to change the front wing. That's kind of race over for him. And nicely for Reese, has filled that gap that he needed for that 10 seconds. But yeah, back to Geek and Alex. The mindset will have to shift instantly if you're Owen, because you've gone from having to use the battery to try and get in that DRS to suddenly you don't want to use too much battery, because if you use too much and you're stuck on the straight running none, Alex will take a second and a half out of you instantly. That's what happened for the overtake. You could see Alex was bashing. He was harvesting, he was in none, and just Owen just blitzed past. So you need to use your battery a little bit tactically if you're Owen. You want to try and brake. If you've got enough battery that you think you can brake, you need to dump instantly. Just go for it. Through this fast right-hander here, Alex is going to have to lift a little bit because of the understeer, because of the dirty air. do you use all of your battery now? And if he can brake and he can get to a second before the DRS detection point, then great. But it's not looking like he's going to do that. At which point, if you don't think you can brake, you need to harvest. Just keep up to 100% battery as much as possible. Yes, you're going to be a little bit slower overall, but if you don't think you can brake and get up to Ben, then cementing P2, all you do is you harvest a little bit and you just use down the straight to stop Alex from coming back.
Absolutely, we can see that Owen is doing his absolute hardest to drop that chrome-nosed McLaren, the Silverstone livery, if I'm not mistaken, from behind. But the DRS again, look at the strength of the DRS. Comes down the straight, he's going to have to try and make a defensive move, but there's not really much you can do when you have a charging McLaren like that. Almost Silver Arrow-esque, just flies past Owen. All of a sudden, it's gone from Hunter to Hunted, back to Hunter. So Owen now has to try and make his way back past the McLaren. It took him so long to get past in the first place. In fact, the lock up again from Alex makes it a little bit easier for Owen to stay within that DRS. And we're going to watch this move probably go back and forth now. The remainder of 13 laps, we've almost got, well, well over halfway. We're only a third of the distance from the end now, as we can see Owen trying his hardest to make another move. And this time he'll want to make it stick.
Yeah, it was a good move from Alex. Again, a nice, easy, use the battery, use the DRS, just make sure that you can make the move nice and early. Bit of an odd exit there. I think he possibly hit the curb, which just meant that he's got an abysmal exit.
And Owen goes by again.
Owen goes by, but potentially he didn't want to do that because Alex is now going to be sat up right behind him going into this DRS straight. So he is just going to be able to flip straight back past if he's got any battery whatsoever.
Well, Owen doing his best to build a comfortable gap there, 0.6 of a second. We'll watch this drop now as Alex has the DRS and the slipstream. It's going to be tight into the first corner, in fact, there you go. Owen, for the first time, has managed to do that as we've got Ben in the pit lane. So Ben has come in to do his final stop. Onto the medium tyres goes our race leader, drops down to 4th place. No penalties for him, nice and clean. Jumps out on the exit, and away he goes for his effective last stop now. Maybe going for that fastest lap, as well as trying to maintain a race lead. We'll see what the lead drivers ahead now do, as they're all going to have to manage their tyres either to the end or go back in and make a late stop to try and cover off that, quite frankly, impressive Ben Mills.
Yeah, a very, very normal 2-stop there. Sort of splitting the stint completely in half. Degradation on this game is usually fairly linear between the mediums and the hards. The mediums have a little bit higher deg, but not usually too much. But yeah, it's sort of what I expected. I expect Alex, yep, there you go, Alex coming into the pits this lap. Try and get that undercut on Owen. The undercut is powerful in this game if you can get a good pit stop, which he has done. Very easy. Just release the clutch at the right point. There's just a button that you just have to press on the steering wheel. Does need to remember, though, on pit lane exit, do not cross that white line because he has already done it once. If he does it again, then he'll get a penalty. So drivers just need to remember to be careful. He gets very close to cutting it. You saw that the driving instinct, he was going, yep, I've got to cut it. And then he starts to cut it and goes, wait, I've already done it once. I won't cut it again.
Very lucky there. So Ben inherits P2 again. Owen does not have a pit stop in hand, so it won't matter what he does. The fact is, he will lose the position when Ben inevitably catches up. In fact, even with the advantage that Owen has, you can see Ben closing the time, those medium tyres really being put to great effect there, as we can see that Reese has come back in, served his time penalty as well, so he now has to not worry at all about his time penalty. In fact, there in fact, is his sparring partner just behind in Alex Alpha, and all of a sudden these two are going to be back at each other again.
Yeah, that's the great thing about the 10-second time penalty, is that if there is a 2-stop race, then you can serve it. Alpha didn't serve his because he set it, or he got it on the entry for that pit stop. As Ben says, 1:11.1. Frankly, slightly scary pace. He's caught up with Geek.
Geek's lost his...
Oh, Geek was pitting, okay.
Yeah, Geek lost his P2, and is actually out behind and outside of the DRS of Alex. So that extra couple laps he went long on his tyres hasn't worked. In fact, it's hindered him by a huge margin. He really should have looked at stopping straight away after Alex, but unfortunately for him, that has not played into his favour at all.
So, yeah, potentially he could, with the overcut, the tyre degradation, he will come back to him. You'd hope. No matter what he did, even if he boxed the lap after, he would have lost the position to Alex. Unfortunately, that is just the strength of the undercut. That's why Ben is now 9 seconds ahead, because he just gapped him 3 seconds in a lap. And you'd expect Owen to take a lap or two just to warm up the tyres. But once they are warm, you'd expect him to come back a bit at Alex because of the lack of deg. Alex does set the fastest lap. We are almost in the 110s in race pace, which is quite fast. A lot faster than I predicted for the fastest lap earlier. So I am now eating my words. As we do have a rather spicy battle here between Edie, Reese, and Alpha. Alpha, with the 10-second penalty, isn't in it particularly, but can definitely throw a spanner in the works for these two. You'd expect Reese to get past fairly easily with the DRS, the battery, the fresher tyres, and just the higher pace over the weekend. You'd expect him to check out, to break that DRS if possible, but we'll see over the coming corners. As he does it almost instantly, up to 9/10 before the carousel. He is just going to... Yeah, there we go, a second, he's gone. Really important for Reese there.
Yeah, absolutely. He's done a really good job there to get past Edie in that Sauber and check out from his competitors there in P6 and P7, so P5. Pretty much a guarantee unless something happens to him now. Geek, meanwhile, has a lot of work to do. In fact, he's back into the DRS now of his compatriot just ahead in the McLaren. We're going to probably see a replica of the Piastri versus Verstappen fights here as we head towards the last few laps of the race now. A little bit of a lock-up from the Red Bull as he comes through now to chase and close that gap on the Chrome McLaren just ahead.
Yeah, as expected, the tyres working wonders and Geek is just straight back into that DRS. The tyre advantage is neutralised after a couple of laps, but you never know what's going to happen. Yeah, hopefully Owen can get a move done nice and quickly.
Absolutely, he looks like he is desperate for that P2 here. It kind of seems to be that the win is all but sewn up here. Ben Mills, in fact, confirms that as he goes to first 110 of the session, 110.8 from the Williams on the mediums there, as Geek now gets a lot closer, gets to within half a second of the McLaren, tries to get right onto the gearbox there, just not enough pace. Harvesting from the McLaren, so he used a lot of overtake there just to keep that Red Bull behind as they come through the hairpin now, up towards Sector 2, the squiggly chicanes, or almost chicanes I should say, of Zandvoort's wonderful sandy hills. They come down towards the faster sections of the circuit now. Nice and tight, nice and tidy, 0.3 of a second, so it is looking likely Owen may make the move coming into this next DRS zone. It seems to be that the moves have to be made within that DRS. It's just not enough room, and with the dirty air, impossible to sort of get past without using that massive assist of a slit in the rear wing.
Yeah, Buckets actually gets right out of the way.
The gravel.
Brilliant, because otherwise he would have given Alex DRS, and that would have not neutralised this entirely, but it made it a little bit harder for Geek to overtake. As it is, should be a close one when you get down to the corner. He might be making a move.
He's going to move to the inside, and it's sewn up before they even get to the braking zone. Once again, DRS just proving that it's the stronger element here when it comes to decisive overtakes. Another overtake there on the DRS, on the straight for the Red Bull. Once again, we're going to have a similar replica of the fight just before the pit stops, where Owen has to now try and defend. In fact, there's another car ahead by the looks of it in Meet the Teacher, who will be the next back marker, and he needs to be very careful, because if not, Owen's going to get a lovely DRS and he could sew that position up before he even gets to the end of the race.
Yeah, obviously back markers aren't expected to get out of the way instantly. There is blue flags. They are required to move over within the 3 blue flags. Looks like Owen won't get the DRS this lap, which is probably good. Quicks can let him by on the straight or at the start of the next lap. But again, 6 tenths going onto this straight. There should be a gap that's big enough that I wouldn't expect Alex to make the move. Owen should be able to turn the back
It's going to be tight.
now.
He's going to go for the move. He's going to possibly send it. Owen locks up, trying to defend. Leaves his braking as late as he physically can. And once again, Owen just about holds off the charge from the McLaren behind. He is doing his absolute best. One thing we've not really spoken about as we watch this battle, just how dominant Ben's been.
Yeah, he's 10 seconds clear. He is just in cruise control at this point. The race is sewn up. From his point of view, he's just bringing it home. 5 laps to go. He can lose, 1.6 seconds a lap and still win. So it is just battery manage. Just kind of leave it in medium. You don't need to touch overtake. Just avoid the curbs that could kill you and cruise home. He's not going to be breaking the record for the largest win. That was a couple of weeks ago when Tom won by 21 seconds or something. But it's going to be such a handy victory, and will put him right towards the top, if not first, in the championship.
Absolutely. Well, it means that we'll have all to play for going into the final round next week. But at the moment, we are still watching this battle take place between Alex and Geek, the McLaren, using the DRS to great effect there. 4 tenths of a second, the gap now between the two drivers as we head towards the last few laps of the race. All the drivers on mediums. Alpha with the only penalty left on the screen after Reese served his to great effect and has built a nice, comfortable margin between him and the charging drivers behind. It's a really unfortunate situation for Meet the Teacher, who was looking promising at the start of the race. Damage on the front wing has sort of put a stop to any potential of a top 5 finish for the Alpine there. Elcone sat pretty much an uneventful race for Elcone there. It sort of dropped to P4, dropped a bit further back, dropped back up to P4, and sort of sat there. Not really spoken much about him. He's been very, very lonely, I think. Perhaps maybe reading some books or sending a few tweets along the straights.
Yeah, unfortunately he got dropped by Owen and then could never really keep up. Alex did actually lose DRS on the back straight, but managed to just sneak in. I think it was 9 tenths of a second at the DRS detection point, which then just drags him straight back into 4 tenths. As we've got Buckets Gaming going slowly on the straights. Not entirely sure why, but he is still going. So all is good. We're not worrying. We've hit the point where the safety car shouldn't be deployed anymore. 1 more lap, and it cannot be deployed because the game will not deploy it this late because it does not know how to finish under the safety car. So again, from Ben's point of view, 1 less worry you have to think about. Just cruise. There's no safety car that can get in your way now. There's Owen again, almost breaking DRS.
Doing his absolute hardest here to hold on to that P2. It's pretty much the only position left that is worth fighting for, as even Alpha will eventually lose that position to ED. It'll just be a case of whether they decide to do it on track or off track with the penalty. But at the moment, it is going to be Geek who holds that advantage of about 7 tenths of a second now, coming up to the final corner. Once again, we are headed into the last few laps here. It is going to be a close one for the McLaren. The McLaren, again, still harvesting, but DRS active. He's going to do his absolute hardest here, try and make a move on that Red Bull, but the Red Bull just staying strong, holding that gap of about 8 to 9 tenths of a second. All of a sudden, it looks a lot harder for the McLaren to make anything of this race. But again, we say that as though P3 isn't a great achievement in its own right. Again, obviously, these drivers are pushing themselves to their absolute limits. We've seen some wonderful moves made and some wonderful battles across this race and the race prior, and we are looking forward to seeing a lot more with the BUSR. But we will focus for now on this battle as we see Once again, Geek doing his absolute best to try and break the DRS in the detection zone. He's getting very close to doing so. If Alex is not careful, he will lose that DRS, and effective chance at P2 will be all but out the window.
Yeah. Geek's got two opportunities here. Two options really. He's either gonna put all his battery in, he's got to dump, and he's got to brake, or he saves a little bit of battery. He kind of knows that if Alex is within half a second, then he's going to make a move onto this final lap. If I was Owen, I'd save a little bit of battery, just leave it in none, do a bit of harvesting here. As long as you've got 90% battery going onto that final straight and you are the car in front, if your opponent isn't already alongside you by the detection point, you should be okay. So either Owen has to brake within the next 3 corners, use all of his battery to brake, or use very little. Allow Alex to get a little bit closer, but have that extra battery for brake.
Absolutely. Well, we can see the flashing lights on the rear mean he is still harvesting. So he's clearly harvesting all the way up to the DRS detection zone. In fact, that will be confirmed with the fact he lost 0.3 of a second there going into this first detection zone. Will be hard on the battery now to try and defend straight back onto harvesting. Through the chicane now he comes. Is he going to harvest again? It looks like the rear lights are flashing on that Red Bull. Twitch from Owen, so he's now going to have to defend a lot harder. Is he going to potentially let the McLaren through and try and drag race the McLaren to the line as we see Ben come onto the final lap now? So we are onto the final lap. White flag is in the air. As you can see, the McLaren making its move to the outside. It's a brave move. He can make it stick. Going to hold it around the outside, but the Red Bull is going to have the priority line. McLaren sticks it around the outside, and he does make the move. A very, very audacious move there from Alex in that McLaren. And Geek now with everything to do, try and retain that P2 that he had right until that very last bit of this last lap. Oh, sorry, the very last bit of this first last lap. You get what I mean?
Yes, as we're on the final lap now. Ben, a sector and a half away from a very, very dominant victory. Owen's got 2 opportunities left. So he's got into this DRS zone here, into the chicane, to send a lunge, or he saves up his battery and out of the final corner, turns on the DRS really early and tries to drag race the McLaren to the line. Personally, I would choose the drag race the McLaren to the line option, but it depends on how much battery both of them have. If Alex has been clever and saved up his battery, then Alex should win that race. But looking at it,
Going to be Ben Mills that takes the win, though. We will jump back to that battle now. In fact, there you go. Geek has made a move before he's even got
has Alex
to the
run out of fuel?
The McLaren run out of fuel. It looks like it might have done. It has. The McLaren has run out of fuel. Now, where is Elcone? Elcone is going to be coming around that last corner now. It's not going to be enough. But McLaren looks like it might have run out of fuel to the line. That is very, very unfortunate for our driver in P3, as he does just about make it. Elcone in at P4. Reese coming along to finish a quite respectable there. P5 for the Mercedes driver, as Edie has made the move now on Alpha. Alpha looks to be finishing in P7 with his penalty. Shouldn't be much difference in the standings there. So we are just now watching the Mercedes come through. He's going to give it a wiggle. Don't lose the rear end now. And across the line. So we're just waiting for the last couple of drivers now, as we're going to see them come to the line. Edie is going to come home a nice strong P6, followed by his mate in the V-carb in P7. Post-race time penalty there confirmed for Alpha, as we watch Buckets with a very damaged Haas crawl its way to the line, coming up to the line now, and that will be our final driver over the line. So Ben Mills with another dominant, the dominant win for Ben. Solid podium for Owen. Very fortunate podium for Alex. I believe one more lap and he would have probably not made it there. And of course, P4 goes to Elcone in the Alpine, P5 Reese, P6 Edie, P7 Alpha, P8 Meet the Teacher or Quicks, whichever you prefer, and P9 Buckets with Shinto, our only retirement, in P10.
Yeah, that was an interesting end to a chaotic race. To put it lightly. Unfortunate that Alex seemed to run out of fuel going into those final corners. Almost brake checked Geek in the process, which would have been terrifying from Geek's perspective to suddenly have a McLaren, stop going forward any rate of knots. It's definitely something that we'll ask them in the interviews. But yeah, a very, very easy drive it looked from Ben. And there was another point that I was going to make, but I have completely forgotten. Oh yes, championship standings. That has put Ben only 7 points off the championship lead going into the final round.
Wow, that's going to be a lot more interesting than our championships that pretty much set up in AC. But we will try and see who we can get in for a interview. We've got Ben sat in the waiting room, Owen in the waiting room. Will we have a P3 driver, or are we going to?
I would expect us to have.
There he is. Alpha.
Yes, there is.
So
Alex.
are we going to bring in P3 first?
I think, yeah, let's talk to P3 first.
Absolutely, we'll bring him in then. So P3 Alex Alpha, whatever you prefer. Welcome to the podium room. Congratulations on the P3.
Thank you very much.
No worries. So obviously this is the first time for me talking to you guys, first time for me in this summer championship to have a chat with you F1 drivers. Do you want to just talk through your day, your evening? How did you find that?
Well, I'd kind of not like to talk about the sprint, to be honest, because the sprint was a bit of rubbish. Just nothing that the Alpine could do. Just came across to avoid someone else, and I collected him and got wing damage for it. Yeah, just one of those things, really.
Absolutely. Well, it's obviously an unfortunate start to your evening, but then a P3.
Yeah, I think that's my 5th P3 of the season, and I don't seem to get any higher, so at least I'm consistent.
Yeah, bringing in the points. That final lap, it looked particularly funny. Was there an issue on that final lap?
Yeah, I might have run out of fuel. Just absolute idiot.
Zandvoort is very easy to do so.
Yeah, I made probably the best overtake of my life around the outside. Played it perfectly. Had about 60% ERS going onto the back straight, and then just got stuck in 5th gear.
Bless you. But again, a brilliant result for you today in the main race, at least anyway. Looking forward to the final round?
Where is it? It's Brazil, isn't it?
Yes, it is Brazil.
Yeah, I'm not the best at Brazil, but I think today puts me 3rd in the championship, which is mega. So at least I've got something to race for.
Absolutely. Well, that was really well done from you, and we look forward to seeing your progress next week at Brazil. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Right, so we'll bring in our 2nd place driver. He is regularly interviewed for the TTs, but here for P2 in Formula 1, it's Owen. Hello.
It took a while for me to get back into it in F1, didn't it?
Yeah, it's a regular occurrence to see you on the podium, but Formula 1, all of a sudden you've, didn't exactly have the best sprint race, made the best of it, and a solid P2 on your end for the feature race. How did it feel?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy all in all. Obviously, the sprint spin, I don't know if that was contact, didn't feel like it, but no, I think that was just my own mistake of just lighting up the tyres too quickly. Thankfully, no damage, but I think that dropped me all the way to pretty much dead last. But no, carving my way through the field, and because the car just felt amazing, so I've finally gotten comfortable. But no, like, just, overtaking people, just battles and wheel to wheel, it felt fun. Main race, I had such a good fight with Al in that McLaren. We were so evenly matched. It was so much fun. Ben just had the outright pace, I think. We were matching towards the end, but his tyres were cooked, so were everyone else's. But he also just played the cards right when the rain stopped and onto dries.
Well, it was a really well managed race by yourself. I think Josh has a question for you.
Go on.
So we spoke to Alex,
Yes.
and that final lap.
Yes.
What was your view of that? He ran out of fuel, he's telling us. But I imagine from your point of view, that must have been slightly terrifying.
He did, yes, but at the exact same time, I was, I believe one of the overtakes I'd done with the DRS anyway, because it is pretty much right as you enter the banking. I was hoping I could try and use the DRS and what little battery I had. I think I had 40%, give or take, to kind of make it like a photo finish. Try and spice it up for the stream, as you all appreciate. No, like I totally did not expect it. It completely kind of caught me off guard. I was like, hang on, is he playing DRS chicken? No, hang on, that doesn't make any sense. It's final lap. No, just unfortunate Al just ran out of fuel. I was cutting it a bit fine as well. I think I had like 0.3 or something left on the final lap. I mean, I was fine, but yeah, just a bit closer than I've appreciated in the last few races. But
Absolutely. Well, looking forward to a week's time in Brazil. Are you expecting any big results for yourself in the final round of the season?
I'm just hoping for top 5. The pace isn't exactly there yet in terms of like how I used to be in 22, 23, stuff like that. Mostly because I just gave the F1 game a bit of a break after the last season we did. And as you know, as your glorious series has produced, Audi TTs are a lot of fun. And to be honest, they've mostly taken up my priority time with sim racing, but no, I'm looking forward to Brazil. Josh is back, so I can bully him a bit. No, I'd love you really, Josh. No, it'll be good. It'll be a good way to end off the season.
Absolutely. Dean, do you have any questions for him before we let him go? No? that is the man.
Very
tired man. Very much for joining us, Owen, and we'll see you probably on Monday.
You are very welcome. Thank you very much, guys.
Right, well, it's time to bring in our race winner for round 7 of the BUSR Summer F1 Championship. Welcome, Ben Mills.
Hello.
Well, Ben, from your perspective, it looked like a bit of a grab a book and poodle around. How was the race for you?
Yeah, it was pretty well executed and managed from my side. I got the strategy pretty much spot on, and my pace was good, so I was relatively pleased.
Yeah, it looked like really strong pace from the outset. From yourself, of course, it seemed to be that the wet to dry was, well, it seemed to very much suit your Williams.
Yeah, I think the interconditions, I think Ali was a little quicker than, well, similar pace. I think he was using higher downforce, so that makes sense. But in a dry, I was able to pull a gap and then extended that.
Yeah, it looked very strong. Well, obviously, we have a sprint, and one more round left to go. According to Josh, you are leading?
8 points behind Tom.
8 points behind Tom in the championship, so it's all to play for. What are your expectations going to Brazil?
To be honest, I mean, Tom is so quick, and if he starts from the front, then I'll have zero chance. So I need to hope that he starts from the back and gets damage on lap 1. But yeah, I'll do my best. I'll run my own race and see what happens.
Exactly. Well, of course, we appreciate your time this evening. Thank you very much for joining us, and best of luck in a week's time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, well, I think with that, we can safely say that is another round done for the BUSR F1. Have we got any final notes from yourself, Doom?
No notes besides it being very chaotic at the start of the second race, and quite chaotic throughout the sprint race as well.
Absolutely. Any closing notes from yourself then, Josh?
No, I'd just say that it was a brilliant race, and hope to see all of you next week, whether it's on the grid or watching in the live stream.
Absolutely. Well, it was a definite race for a lot of entertainment, a lot of interesting moments, a lot of action from our 10 drivers. Can't wait to see next week when we have more on the grid. I might have to come back and do a few more commentaries for this wonderful championship. But I think we're going to sign off there. From myself, from Josh, from Aidan, our lovely observer, just sat behind us, as you can see in that wonderful photo. From Doom, our producer, brilliant job on the stream today. Thank you very much. I've been Adam. This has been the BUSR, sponsored by Gridfinder, Traction, Sim Staff, and a brand new sponsor coming soon. We are going to sign off there. Good night, guys.
Good night.